Go for it.
Okay, excellent. Welcome to WITI Africa, where we have conversations with social impact entrepreneurs in the African continent who are making significant contributions to their communities of influence. My name is Winifred Ereyi. I am the WITI Africa community leader. I'm also the CEO of EY Communications and its subsidiary ThinkSTEM Foundation. Joining me is my co-host from Bahrain. She's the WITI community leader for Middle East and North Africa. Tosin Arowojolo, my best friend for life. We have known each other since we were 12 years old, and we've done life for the past, I think we're still 16 now. So we've done life for the past 4 years. That's not true. We've done life for the past 4 decades, and we're still doing life across borders. Tosin, please introduce yourself. Unmute and introduce yourself, Tosin.
Thank you very much, Winifred. It's great to be here. And yes, we're doing live for more than 4 decades. That's amazing. As she said, I am a leadership and communications coach. I'm part of the executive team in the John Maxwell leadership and joining in from Bahrain. So great to be here. Thanks, Winifred.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So today we're going to be having a conversation with Osayi Izedonmwen. He's going to correct me if I did not pronounce his last name properly, but that's I've been practicing it, so I think it's Izedonmwen. So joining me is Osayi Izedonmwen. Osayi is an Africa-focused business leader committed to building high-growth enterprises that are ethical, deploying systems approaches to deliver meaningful and sustainable impact. He earned an MBA from the University of Leicester and is a chartered engineer. So we are all engineers here. I'm an electrical engineer. Tosi is a civil engineer. And Osayi will tell us what type of engineer he is before he became a chartered engineer. He started his career as a project execution engineer with a Fortune 50 company and grew through the ranks to become the youngest operations manager in their African operations, responsible for managing a multi-billion US dollar asset cluster. He founded Imose Technologies, I think that's the right pronunciation, Imose Technologies, and bootstrapped the business to over $10 million in annual revenues within a few years. He later founded Teesas Education with the aim of liberalizing access to quality education and enhancing learning experiences across Africa. Osayi brings unique and wide-ranging perspectives gained from his years in various industries and building impact-focused organizations. Thank you for joining us, Osayi Izedonmwen. Did I pronounce your last name properly?
Thank you, Winifred. I think you did a fantastic job, and it's great to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
So a very interesting fact, full disclosure, Osayi Izedonmwen is the husband of my first cousin. So can you believe I can't pronounce his last name? Tosi did not know that. So Tosi, welcome to the surprise. And David did not know that. So Osayi is the husband of my first cousin. My first cousin looks so much like my mother. Our mothers were sisters and they looked so much alike and they got on like house on fire. So she's actually here. I see her. She's also an engineer, an electrical engineer. I was actually looking for the video she sent me about Imose Technologies to see if I could actually share it. Here, I will definitely invite her towards the end of this conversation. Tosin, that was a surprise for you. So, in 2020, when COVID began and the world became connected with digital technology, and everybody started feeling comfortable having conversations over Zoom. I had been using Zoom for a while before then. I forgot to buy shares there. I should have bought some shares before it became very popular. But anyway, I started at a social experiment, and the social experiment I started was that since my mother is the oldest surviving matriarch in the family, I wanted to get to meet my cousins. I'd left Nigeria over 3 decades ago, 32 years. So I had cousins who were so much younger than me who I'd never really met. And so I reached out to my cousins and I started to build relationships with them. And so that's how I got connected to my young cousin Taye and Full Circle, and I found that we had so many similarities. She studied. She said I was her role model. I'm going to claim that for studying electrical and electronics engineering, and then this is the first time I'm sitting down to have a conversation with a very handsome husband, Osayi. I mean, we've said hello to each other, but this is the first time I'm sitting down to have a conversation with Osayi and to surprise my best friend for life because she did not know anything about this. So, welcome, Osayi. So, I'm going to start my questioning, and really, it's just a discussion. It's not rocket science. We just really want to spotlight the amazing work that you are doing in Nigeria. So let's take you back a bit. What did you study? What type of engineer? I know you are a chartered engineer. What type of engineer are you? I know electrical engineers are the best engineers. Well, tell me, what type of engineer are you?
Well, I would argue that mechanical engineers are the best kind of engineers. So that will give
Okay,
you an idea of what I
so,
studied. Um,
okay.
so I studied mechanical engineering, my first degree. So fun fact, I actually wanted to study electrical electronics engineering. So just so you know, I'm in love with electrical engineering as well.
Oh, okay, very good. So actually, isn't that really that is great, that we have both electrical, civil, and mechanical. We kind of cover the spectrum of engineering. I know that there are so many variations of engineers now. They have systems engineers, telecoms engineers, so many different, but all of them they are really a subset of the main engineers, civil, electrical, mechanical. I am missing one other engineer. Tosi, I think it's chemical engineers. Those are the
Chemical. Yeah.
those are the main engineers, and everything else is a subset of it. So, starting with
Yeah.
your early days as a project execution engineer, working for a Fortune 50 company, tell me what are the three foundation lessons you learned that shaped your path to become an operations manager, overseeing multi-billion dollar assets. Before you answer that question, let me take you back a bit. What made you study engineering first? What made you study mechanical
Oh,
engineering?
that mechanical engineering. I think my curiosity. I've always been curious about how things in the environment I lived and worked. And even as a 10-year-old, I would pick up old electrical devices, any kind of device, or just pick it up and start, piecing it apart and putting it together. So I always had a flair for wanting to understand how my environment worked. And I guess the only discipline that gave me the expression to do that and build on that curiosity was ultimately going to be engineering. So even as a 13-year-old, I was already building toy helicopters, anything you could think of that a child could build at the time. I was building it and actually building and selling it because those were really cool toys at the time. So the only way I found expression for that passion was really engineering. And as time had just evolved, I figured that engineering was going to be my focus area.
Yes, that is so good to share because I believe curiosity is what brought us, all of us, curiosity and the desire to solve problems, the desire to improve our world, the world that we lived in. The world we lived in had so many problems. I studied electrical engineering because there was no there was no electricity, constant supply of electricity was like, it's still a rarity in Nigeria. And so I wanted to solve that problem. So curiosity, problem solving, wanting to improve the lives of individuals and communities is what really has brought us to this profession of engineering. And so many decades after, we're still very passionate about it and encouraging others to pursue it. So I will now pick up my question. So let's look at your early days. You were working with a you were working as a project execution manager with a Fortune 50 company. Tell me, what are three foundational lessons that you learned during that season of your life that shaped your path to become one of the youngest operations manager overseeing multi-billion-dollar assets? That is very commendable. Congratulations, even if you are not in that season, but still congratulations. I doff my heart for you. So tell me,
Thank you.
tell me what are three foundational lessons?
Yeah, I think so. The first thing is really hard work, right? When you think of it, that our parents always, espouse the idea of really working hard. That idea hasn't changed. It still delivers, the best kind of results, right? Where, sorry, I was on camera trouble.
Yes, you
So it
can
still
turn off
delivers
your
the best.
camera. Just continue. Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. So it still delivers the best kind of results for anyone who's aspiring to do great things. The way I see it is, even if everyone on planet Earth is blessed with the same IQ, intelligent quotient, but one person is working twice as hard as their peers, chances are that they are going to outcompete them on almost everything they do and deliver, much larger results in the long run, because these things tend to be very exponential. As you work hard, you tend to become luckier, right? Because people observe that you deliver results faster. People observe that you tend to get a lot more done. I remember one of the appraisal dimensions that the company I worked for developed for young engineers was quantity and quality of work. So in that appraisal dimension was an inherent understanding that quantity of work is essential to getting results. So I think hard work to me is the bedrock for real progress and success in anything you set your heart to do. And I learned that very early in life. I think the other thing I learned, particularly in that role, is self-confidence, right? Believing in yourself that you deserve to be in the room. The environment I worked in then was very competitive. This particular company went around the country at the time and essentially recruited the best and the brightest young engineers. So for you to even make it through the final interview stage, you probably had made a first class or you were top in your class. So you came in there. I remember remember the last stage of the interview. The guy that sat next to me, he was the overall best guy in IFE, in I think chemical engineering. The next person, set a record in Uniport. So all around they had really quality individuals. So there is a tendency to lose self-confidence. But I find that when you display a high sense of self-confidence, you really convince yourself that you're worthy to be in the room, right? And when you aspire in your mind to become something and you display the confidence required, ultimately, because of hard work, you rise up to that expectation that you set for yourself. And I think the last thing I think I picked up in my early years was the impact of emotional intelligence. You know, um, most times folks who are book smart are not very emotionally intelligent. And when you go into the corporate world, you quickly realize that book smart is good. Book smart helps you, run the numbers, do nice presentations and all of that. But what gets you promoted is your likability, your ability to use empathy in your conversations, your ability to read the room, your ability to be, highly emotionally intelligent. That separates the boys from the men. And I think it helped me very early in my career to know who to align with in the office, how to speak in certain conditions, how to display empathy in the right environment. All of that really, helped me, I think, with a very high-paced, fast-paced career in the company. Yeah. So those would be my three top lessons.
Thank you so much for sharing that. They're really, really timeless lessons. Curiosity, first of all, is very important, and curiosity brought you in, but you can't put curiosity in the back seat. You have to keep on being curious. You have to keep on being a learner so that you can navigate the workspace. So I really believe that curiosity was your foundation, and you just kept on learning and learning and getting access to opportunities because you demonstrated very strong character traits like hard work. John Maxwell is my mentor. It's also Tosin's mentor. You can turn off your video. It's also Tosin's our mentor. We're both John Maxwell certified coaches. And here he wrote a book that talent is not enough. You can be, just like you've alluded, talent, you can be the most talented person, but that doesn't mean you're going to have access to opportunities. So I really like that, and that's why I'm summarizing it, because these are really timeless lessons. Whether you're at the beginning of your career or middle or wherever you are in the pipeline, curiosity, hard work, self-confidence. That self-confidence, Osayi, is a big, big problem that female engineers have. And that is one of the reasons we do the events we do in WITI. Because for me, when I started my career, there were very few females. Actually, I was the only one. And the guys gave me a very tough time because I worked on the oil rigs. And I really felt like I did not belong. Until today, you go to spaces where female engineers feel like they don't belong, although there's a lot of talk about inclusion and diversity. So being able to not just sit at the table, but act, but make your voice heard. That takes confidence. That takes ability, believing in your abilities. So self-confidence, very important in the academic world and very important throughout your career. So that self-confidence and emotional intelligence, they're kind of hand in glove, huh? Because I remember when I started my career, and I thought I was the smartest thing since sliced bread. I finished summa cum laude first class until I went to work on the oil rigs, and the guys did not want a female. And I was not emotionally intelligent. I was not socially and emotionally intelligent. I did not know when to talk, how to talk, and not to talk too much. And I could not read the room. And so I've spent my life really improving that area. And that's really what I tell young female engineers. You may be very smart, you may have all the A's and everything in your school. Put it in your back pocket, because when you come into the corporate world, you have to know how to show up and when to show up and how to communicate with other people. You have to understand other people's personalities and have to have and how to have conversations that will connect with them. So those are three important points. And social and emotional intelligence is something you continue to invest in and develop all throughout your lifetime. So thank you for those four wisdom nuggets that you have dropped here. I will pass the mic over to my co-host Tosin from Witty Mina. Tosin, you want to ask Osayi a question?
Thank you very much, Winifred. And Osayi, very, very impressive resume. I was reading and really, really impressed by what you've accomplished. And so I want to drill down into some of the companies that you started, starting off with I don't know if it's Imose Technologies. How do you say?
Yeah, Imose, you got
Okay, Imose. Okay,
it.
great. Imose. And it grew to over 10 million in annual revenues. That by itself is very, very impressive. So I want to hear more about how that happened. What were some of the pivotal decisions or sacrifices that allowed you to bootstrap the company? I like that word, bootstrap, to how you bootstrap the company to such success. So could you share a bit more about that with us?
Yeah, thank you, Tosin. Um, Another fun fact before I answer the question, the name Imose actually stands for beauty, and the company was actually named by my wife, who I believe is on this call. I don't know if she's still here. Yes, she actually gave the company the name. At the time the time I was founding the company, we're just having a chat, and I'm like, I don't know what to call this company. She said, why call it Imose? You know, and fun fact, that's the name she would have given her daughter if we had a daughter. So she was like, just give it Imose. So that's how the name came about. I think the journey of Imose is really an interesting one because I started Imose when I was still working, in this Fortune 50 company, and it was something I always wanted to do. Um, you know, like I told you, when I was 13, I was already building electronics and selling them. So it was a real passion area for me. Um, and I knew I had to do it. And I was lucky enough to now have a partner in my life at the time, right now, who's now my wife, who also was an electrical computer engineer. So I mean, you can imagine what the dinner table was like, right? We're always talking about this idea. We had to do this. She also had great ideas, and we said, you know what? We're going to go full blast into this. When we started, we had no outside investor, and that's why I use the word bootstrap. We grew Imose to over $10 million in annual revenues without a single dollar of outside investment. And I think, in these days where you hear of, people raising $5 million, $10 million, $20 million, at the time, there was really nowhere to go. This was 2014, 2015 when we actually started the business. There was really nowhere to go. So I essentially started the business from my savings. I had a decent job at the time. And we looked at very specific areas that we thought we could truly do great things, and where the competitive intensity was not really, really large. And, you know, this was something that was like a baby for us. Like I said, my wife named the company and it was supposed to be her daughter, right? So you can imagine every day reminding me that, the daughter needs to be fed. The daughter needs to be fed. So we started off from our savings, and we looked at the map, the smart devices, feature phone, and just the general device map, telecommunication device map at the time. And we identified a particular area where we felt it was very low competitive intensity, and the value drivers for what customers were looking for in that area was something that we could deliver. And it was something very simple, battery life. So we started off with the desktop. We had a desktop phone that's like the old landline phone we had at home, but this time used the GSM, card. And a lot of small offices and families at the time needed that kind of device. Parents wanted at home to communicate with their kids, and they didn't want to have their kids, pick up cell phones, a 2-year-old, the worry that, the rays could cause cancer and all of that. So there was a huge demand for it, but the products in the market were just so badly made. They had very poor battery, they were really crappy. And we said, hey, we can do better with this, particular segment of the market. So we threw in everything we had into that business, and it took off like wildfire. Our thesis that it could work actually did play out. We couldn't meet up with demand. We brought in the first container, it sold out like maybe 2 months, and we're making like crazy margins, almost like 100%, almost 90% margins on each device. So we just started experimenting. And we said, okay, hey, why don't we try the same strategy? We looked at another area of the market that had low competitive intensity, children educational tablets. We said, okay, let's go in there, let's try. And we launched another product called the Omo Tab. Again, this was just us plowing back profits, plowing back profits. The margins were really good at the time, so it gave us the opportunity to just plow back all of the profits. I took every loan I could get. Then we had a cooperative in my company where you could take loans We had a bank. In fact, my building then had a bank on the ground floor. I walked into the building, signed off all the papers. So essentially, they had all my salary up front for the next 5 years, guaranteed from my HR department. And I took, I think at the time it was a 50 million naira loan. That was huge money at the time. This was like 2015. You know, took that, poured it into the business. We lost a lot of money too because, at the time we were just importing everything from China, and sometimes those Chinese guys did us wrong. They would give us really low quality stuff. We couldn't sell them. We lose a lot of money, but that's where resilience comes in, right? You pick up yourself, you go back in, you pick up yourself, you go back in, until we started building the capacity to actually recruit people in China who would help us with quality assurance and quality control. We started building out, a clear go-to-market strategy for our different products. And, we just kept building and building until one day, I think the first big deal we got that really made us realize that we're no longer small. Airtel, one of the second largest telecommunications company in the country, they wanted to roll out, phones to bundle with SIM cards, and it was a bid, and we bid it. And I think at the time, Dangote Foundation was funding it, and the value of that contract was somewhere in the range of almost $2 million, and we bid it for it, and we won. And we were actually invited by Airtel to bid for it. So that kind of really, we started looking at ourselves like, okay, this is no joke. We're getting there. Like, people are recognizing us. And over time we just grew the business, and today we're well above $10 million in revenue. And we're really proud of that because not many companies have been built that way from ground up without any outside investment. So we're at the point now where investors are knocking on our doors every day wanting to invest in business. So it's a different world out there now. Yeah, so that's a short story of Imose.
So just to follow on, so Imose is based in Nigeria.
Yes, Imose is based in Nigeria.
Okay.
Based in Nigeria. We now do business in other countries. We have a subsidiary in Kenya, a subsidiary in Ghana, but the HQ is in Nigeria.
That's really impressive. Okay, so I'm going to turn it over to Winnie for the next question. Winifred, over to you. You're muted, dear.
Yes, hang on a minute. Tosin, ask the next question.
All right, so I'm going to go to your next company. So I want to hear a bit more about Teesas Education. We know it's on a mission to democratize quality education across Africa, which already is exciting for me. So I'd like to know what unique challenges you have faced in the EdTech space, particularly in terms of accessibility, and how have you tackled those challenges? So let's hear a bit more about Teesas Education.
Yeah, great. I mean, so Teesas, fun fact about Teesas actually was derived from the Benin word for teacher. So in Benin, we call them a Teesa. So we just took the A out and we say Teesas. So it stands for teachers actually. And Teesas really came out of Imose, right? As we matured Imose and built our children educational tablet business, the parents that we engaged with that bought those tablets, and as part of our customer discovery process, started telling us that they wanted more the tablets, they wanted more content. At the time, we would just sell the bare tablet or put some free games that would download from the Google Play Store. But parents kept telling us they wanted more educational content. They wanted this tablet to deliver, real educational value to their kids. And so I took out time from work and went over to India, spent quite some time in India to really understudy their edutech landscape, because at the time they were really taking off on that space. And a lot of the early ideas for how we matured Teesas, really, we just borrowed brilliance here. And you know what they say, when you copy from a lot of sources, you look like a genius, right? So we copied from India, we went to the US. I spent some time in the US, looked at what they were doing in the edtech space, and just, you know, applied a bit of indigenous adaptation to make it work for us. And one of the things we did with Teesas was deliver our content, not just in English, but also in local Nigerian languages. So we have, tutor-led videos in Igbo, in Hausa, in Yoruba, and these are tutor-led videos, but we infuse a lot of animations using materials that are relatable to the kids. Also in Africa. Now in Kenya, we do the same thing in Swahili and all of that. So we really try to apply indigenous adaptation. Now that business, really came out after the end of COVID, and the adoption of online learning peaked during the COVID period. But after the COVID period, it kind of really dipped because parents and learners really were keen to go back to the classroom. And I think that's one of the biggest challenges we faced. But we quickly realized that there was another way around it, right? Today, we are somewhat pivoting from just trying to reach our consumers directly, and now working with schools and the government to reach those consumers. Because we quickly realized that in Africa, particularly in Nigeria, purchasing power is really deepened, is going down. And unlike food, health, things that have immediate impact, education sometimes, is subtle. The differentiator often shows up later in life. It doesn't happen immediately, right? So you find that parents who are now very, stressed when it comes to disposable income tend to want to go with the barest minimum, right? They are not so amenable to spend more on supplemental learning material. Uh, but governments recognize that the public education system is broken, so they need help. And so folks like us that have material and platforms to help them truly transform the public educational system can become very valuable. So we have to really relook at the problem and start positioning ourselves to government, to schools as well. Schools who want to retain their learners, who want to provide a new way of delivering education, are now having to work with us. And at the end of the day, we're delivering on our mission. Because when we started Teesas in 2021, we had a very bold, audacious goal. We set a target for ourselves that on before the end of 2028, we want to have 10 million learners actively using our platform to complete their learning journeys. And the reason why we chose that number is because we believe very strongly that if we have 10 million learners, particularly in underserved communities that now have access to quality education they would otherwise not have access to, would have made a dent, a very positive dent in the educational trajectory of Africa and truly alter lifelong outcomes. And so that's what we're very excited about Teesas, because what we do is we take the entire curriculum, bring in the best and the brightest tutors, and then deliver that content, through videos, through ebooks, and because these things are distributable via tablets and apps, it can reach a lot of people. The internet has become ubiquitous, smart devices have become ubiquitous, so we can really, take a systems approach and break down those barriers that will prevent people in underserved communities from accessing that kind of quality education. So that's why Teesas is really something we're passionate about, we're pushing, we're beginning to see a lot of positive results.
I'm curious to know what are some of the subjects on your platform for the learners?
Great. So we cover the entire K-12 spectrum. In fact, we start from pre-K. So everything in pre-K, basic maths, English, and as you move into higher classes, we cover sciences, physics, chemistry, economics, agriculture. We now even have a special product within the Teesas family that essentially helps students that are preparing to go into university. We call it Matric. So we've gone back 40 years, looked at all the JAM WAEC questions. For those of you that are not in Nigeria, JAM and WAEC are really the examining boards and you have to pass the exams to get into university in Nigeria. And I think even in West Africa, WITI is for West Africa. So we looked at all the frequently asked questions, and we've developed short videos explaining how to actually answer those questions. And then we've also put past questions, over 10,000 together with answers that's available on the app with short explanations. So that really helps them get ready for those exams. And we launched the product earlier this year. It was really a pilot launch, and we saw a 97% pass rate with the folks that used our products for JAM. Meanwhile, the national average was about 22 or 23%. So clearly, we're onto something. So going forward, we're really going to just mature that product and bring it to more people.
Thank you so much for this. Thank you so much. I was actually looking for your video on Imose, and I was trying to share it. That was why there was that echo. And maybe we can share it if we do have some time at the end of this, towards the end of this event. But what I am so impressed about, Osayi, from hearing you talk, is how you think and act very strategically. You tell us that you take a step back, you zoom in, you are aware of your expertise. You're a chartered engineer, you have an MBA, and then you zoom out and you look at the community where you are, and you begin to look at gaps, because that's really how Imose started. You began to look at gaps and to say that there is a problem out there. What expertise can I bring on the table, both myself and from the community around me? How can we all come together in order to solve a problem? So would you agree with that summary from just listening to you talk? Because right from Imose to Teesas Education, that just seems to be your approach, that you think you and act strategically, and you're somebody who is driven by results. You're very result oriented. I know I asked you to give only three top foundational lessons that helped you build your organization, but really just from listening to you talk, I mean, that just comes out that you think you are strategically, you are gathering data, you are a learner, you went to India, you studied the community. So you did not just walk in the realm of the mind to say, I have this great idea, so I'm just going to go ahead. You actually tested your market. You went, you learned, you got data, you put it together so you could have a story before you could actually launch your company. Would that be a good summary? It's very important that I summarize what you are saying. So because we want the listeners to take something that they can apply in their life when they leave this conversation, because WITI is a learning environment. We come together to learn. That's why I've asked you people to share your LinkedIn so we can connect and continue the conversation. So going back, would you agree that that is a summary of your approach in starting your business? Osayi, over to you.
Yeah, so thank you very much. I think when I look back at how we've built businesses, and I say businesses because mostly and Teesas are the ones people know now. We have several others we're incubating, right? That will become big businesses very soon. I think ultimately it's about value creation. Our approach to building businesses is one that looks at creating substantial value for our key stakeholders. We believe that the growth of a business should be the direct result of the value you have created. Right? There's no luck in it. You've got to create value, and if that value sits well with the stakeholders, your business grows, it expands, and ultimately you make profits for your shareholders, investors, and other stakeholders. So that's really been it. And so, to your point, is really about value, growing the pie for all the stakeholders involved. And I think the underlying message is our businesses are somewhat impact focused, because I believe that the essential purpose of building a business is to do good, and that the benefit you get as a businessman should come from the good that you do. It may not be a very popular opinion, because I know there's a Nobel laureate, I think Milton Friedman, that says the only job a business should do is deliver profits. I vehemently disagree with that, right? I believe very strongly that businesses are probably the best vehicle to transform society. And if we build them right for stakeholders, we ultimately do good for society and do well for ourselves as investors and business people. So yeah, the focus is value creation. And ultimately, if we do the right things and we create the right level of value, then growth will come.
So let's continue that train of thought. I definitely agree with you. I'm into social entrepreneurship. So looking at businesses and even companies, working for companies that at the end of the day, their goal is to improve the life of individuals and the community. That is really my heartbeat, that business must do good, even not just make profit. You must be improving the lives of the community. So following that train of thought, tell me, what does it take to build an impact-driven organization? I know you've given a high-level view. We want to drill it down. What does it take to build a high-impact organization that is also profitable? Especially in a market like like Nigeria and Africa as a whole, that is very, very volatile, very uncertain, very complex, very ambiguous. What I know you talked about resilience, you've given us great character traits, but looking at it from through a business lens, what does it take? How can you get investors with that sort of unstable terrain to kind of invest in your business? What does it really take to build
Yeah.
such an organization?
So I think first of all is the mindset, right? You you've got to believe that you can create value in an environment like this. The reality is, if you do not believe, say for example, you're a young person, you don't believe in Nigeria, you believe that the only good that will come to you is if you emigrate. There's no way you're going to build an impact-focused business. There's no way you're going to build a really good business because your mind is already made up. There's a small voice telling you, I'm never going to make it here. I need to be out there before I make it. Um, I took a very contrarian view, even when I had the opportunity to emigrate permanently and the rest. There was always a strong belief that if there was anywhere value and impact could really intersect, it had to be Africa. The problems here are so basic. The things you worry about out there are not what we worry about out here, right? Up until 5 years ago, having internet at home was a big deal, right? That's something that you probably don't bother about to think about. Even here, as we speak, it's still epileptic. You think about the number of things we import. You think about the number of basic challenges around education, around health, around logistics. It is humongous. So in those challenges lie the biggest opportunities, right? And so I would almost not want to use my business as an example. There's just so many examples. A company called MoneyPoint just became $1 billion company, right? Yes, MoneyPoint. And what did they solve? They simply solved access to money, right? So a year ago, our central bank governor decided that, he was going to take physical cash out of circulation for reasons best known to him. Some say political, we don't know, right? And we realized that there was a cash crisis. Nobody had money. He had not prepared the populace. We're not like the US that, we swipe credit cards and all of that. We're still getting to that point. And there was this little known company, MoneyPoint, that saw the gap, created, a fintech platform and, handheld point of sale machines that could, help people move cash around. And within short order, they became $1 billion company. Young guys, probably younger than I am, right? They are probably going to be on the Forbes list soon. So that just speaks to the opportunities that lie here. So I think the first thing, and why I use those guys, because I don't like using myself as an example, right? You've got to have the right mindset because those guys, they're smart kids. They could easily have gone somewhere else, right? But it's difficult to be a superstar in an environment where everything is fixed, right? That's the truth. So you've got an environment where things are really bad. If you solve the really big problems, you can become a superstar. And investors like superstars. That's the truth. Anywhere in the world, Elon Musk is a superstar in the US today. Investors love him. His car company probably makes fewer cars than Toyota, but is valued as the most valuable car company in the world, right? So that's exactly how capital flows. Everybody likes winners, right? When I raised money, so for Teesas, my edtech company, I had to raise money because at the time we're still building Imose, and I was like, I don't want to go through this bootstrapping experience where I have to take loans and everything. Let me get outside investors. We wanted to raise, maybe just about $1 million to say, let's try this thing out. We had $8 million on the table. We had to turn down investors. Yes, right. And the reason is because they had seen what I had built. They had seen how we built Imose from ground up. So they were throwing money at us. I was picking my valuation. Like, okay, I want this valuation. Oh, no problem. It was almost that easy, right? So investors like winners. But it starts with you as the entrepreneur. You must have the right mindset. And I think the second thing is looking for like-minded people. You've got to look for missionaries, not mercenaries, right? Because in the early days, it's going to be really tough. And if you don't have people who believe in the mission, when the going gets tough, they're just going to look for something else, especially if there are options, right? But when you have people who are really committed to the mission, when things are not going well, when their peers are probably making twice what they are making in your company, they stick around, right? And at the end of the day, if you're successful, those are the people you really want to reward big time as well because they've been with you through thick and thin. For me, I think those are the two critical things that, if you're starting out, you must be thinking about. Then, of course, like I said earlier, you really need to think about how you're going to create value, right? I don't think an impact-focused entrepreneur should just go out there and say, hey, I want to be an entrepreneur. No, you must have a purpose. There must be something driving you to want to do that. There must be something drove me to leave a comfortable job, right? To go do this, right? I could have stayed back where I was. I was a high flyer, I was doing well by any standard anywhere in the world, but I chose to go do this. It's stressful. I probably lost more hair than I should have because of the stress that I've had to go through to build this. But the joy that comes from seeing the impact of your work and how, like I said, it's creating a significant leap in value for stakeholders is something that I think is truly remarkable. I just came back from a trip to, like the northernmost part of Nigeria, where we're trying to work with one of the sub-nations, one of the states there, to bring quality education to over 500,000 kids. And as I went out with the governor to some of the hamlets to go see the schools, all I was just thinking about was, wow, look at how I'm going to change lives. Just look at the lives I'm going to change. Look at this young girl, that you know her father has probably told her, well, just get to GSS 3 and I'll marry you off to one Alaji or something. And by the time she starts working with our platform, working with our tablets, she'll be so exposed that she will say, no, Dad, I'm not going to do this, right? My future is not just to become a child bride, right? There's more to life. I know it now, I see it, and if we can do that for just a few people, I think we've done a really good job. Not talk of if we actually deliver on our mission to bring this to 10 million people across underserved communities. Look at the transformational, life-changing outcomes that would have, driven across Africa. So I think for me, you've got to have a deeper purpose, right? So to summarize, three things, right? You've got to have the right mindset. You've got to look for the right team of people, but you've got to have a deeper purpose. It cannot just be about making money. If you want to just make money, then you have to do something else. You cannot build an impact-driven business because it's probably not going to make you money in the early days. It's probably not, right? So it's a long journey. So
Thank you
yeah,
so much for
back to
that.
the
Thank
ideas.
you. Oh my goodness, I'm sure you've seen all the hats I've been, I have been clicking This as we need to do a second part two because we really can't ask all the questions. But I wanted to give the audience, because like I said, this is a learning community. I wanted to give the audience an opportunity to actually ask questions. And we really have to have you back in 2025 to do like part two, where the audience can really interact with you. Because one of our goals in WITI Africa is to change the narrative. I'm very, like you talk about, start with why. I'm a very passionate and driven person. We want to change the narrative. We want the global community, WITI community, the global community at large to see outliers like you, superstars like you, and start to change the way they think about Africa. So let me open the floor to the audience who are here, and to really ask any questions based on what Osayi has shared. Does anybody have a question? Yes, Kill, yes. Please introduce yourself. Oh, that is my nephew. Is it my Osayande?
I'm saying it's skill. Can you hear me? Can
Osayande,
everybody hear me?
go for it, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, my name is Osayi Izedonmwen. I'm also called Mike. So I have a very important question for Osayi. Being that he has worked for a very long time and he has honed his skills in this environment, the ed tech space, right? And obviously, it's in that he has the opportunity to, advise new recruits or new startups. What advice will you give people like us going into the ed tech space from this part of the world?
What part of the world are you
Thank
in?
you.
What
Oh,
part of
I'm
the
in
world?
Canada. I'm in Canada, not America. Let me just put it out.
Yes, okay.
All right, thank you. I think, at the end of the day, it really starts from the basics, right? Everywhere you are, North America, Africa, South America, there are value gaps. And it starts from really identifying the value gaps. For me, the way I see it is you need to look for the sweet spot where certain circles intersect. One, where there is a large enough value gap that you can create value from. That's one circle. Two, an area where you have competence or a team of people who have the competence to create value for the stakeholders in the value gap. And then three, which I think is a very important area that many people overlook, something you're deeply passionate about, right? Where those three circles intersect, that sweet spot is where you should build from, right? And the reason why those three circles are important are not far-fetched. One, if there's no value gap, you're just going to come into a red ocean and get chewed by big competitors. If you don't have the competence, your learning curve is going to be very steep, right? So you're going to spend a lot of time trying to figure it out. That's not a bad thing, but in a very dynamic world, you're probably going to get eaten out quickly. And then three, when you're trying to figure it out, if you don't have the passion, you're going to burn out. You're going to start asking yourself, why am I doing this, right? I could be doing something else. I could be earning a multi-million-dollar salary doing something else. Why do I have to do this? So there's got to be a big why driving. That for me. I would never be able to tell you specifically how the value gap looks like in North America because I don't live there. But what I do know is that the value gap exists everywhere. You just have to figure it out. Now, it may be that there's something AI can do there that nobody has thought of. And maybe as part of your career trajectory, you were leading an AI project in your office to do something in that regard. You can borrow brilliance there, copy shamelessly, and use it to fix that value gap, right? There's nothing, I mean, Steve Jobs, Picasso, every person you admire out there, they're one of the biggest copycats, right? Many people forget that Steve Jobs did not invent the smartphone. People just say, oh, Steve Jobs, he didn't, right? At the time, he came out, Nokia already had something that looked like that. BlackBerry was big, but Steve Jobs just borrowed brilliance, put it together, and delivered a superior product that closed a lot of value gaps. The first product was crap. You know, only one carrier had it, AT&T. It was like 2G. At the time, 3G was already coming out. The first iPhone was actually 2G. It was crappy as well. The battery was horrible, right? But that's why you see them iterating. Yeah, it's a pursuit of excellence. You won't get it right in the first time, iPhone 1, iPhone 2, iPhone 3. I'm sure in our lifetime we'll get to iPhone 100. So,
Thank
so
you so
that
much.
was my opinion.
Thank you.
Well,
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much. Thank you so much. So we are kind of running a bit late. So we're just going to ask you to give us 15 extra minutes, please, so that we can go through the questions. Like I said, we're going to have Osayi again next year. 2025 is knocking on the door. And by that time, I'll get my act together and play the video of Imose. Not sure why he just would not play. So I have a Media, that's my oldest sister. She has a hand up. Media, can you unmute yourself and can you turn on your video so that we can add you to the spotlight? You can unmute yourself, Media. Okay.
It says I cannot. It says okay. Great. Greetings, everybody. Hi, Osayi. Nice to see you again. I saw you recently in Canada. I am like beyond admiration for being part of this presentation and hearing you speak. What a privilege it is. I want to find out if you're available to speak in some spaces that I'm in, where I'm part of some diaspora groups that are looking for people of excellence like you in country that have evidence-based results of excellence in terms of accomplishments and are people of integrity that they can kind of come alongside. We do not have the kind of resources that you have been able to mobilize, but in terms of capital, but there's also non-tangible resources in terms of that whole building a bridge between diaspora and in-country in Nigeria in terms of partnership, whereby we that kind of have a kindred souls and have similar values and similar mission-oriented purposes can collaborate. Thanks again for the excellent presentation.
Thank you so much, Media, and great to see you again. I'm always open to conversations. As you probably can tell, I'm very passionate about the things I do, and that's why I always recommend it. Right, everything I'm doing today is born out of a very deeper calling to want to do this. So I'm always happy to speak to anyone that is aligned with that kind of purpose. And you're right, there are going to be countless ways we can collaborate. And I just feel Africa needs a lot of help. I think some of the brightest minds are going to come out of Africa over the next decade or two, and everything we can do to enable that growth, that transition, any support we can get from the diaspora, the partnerships, I'm ready to, shake hands with everyone to just make that happen. So you can count on me as long as my schedule allows. I will create time to be there.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Tosin, for being here. I know that it's like 10 o'clock your time. Thank you so much for being here, Tosin. Just one last question, Kelly Boy. Can you unmute yourself and turn on your video if you want to, so I can add you. Okay. Hey, Kelly, go for it.
Hi, everyone. And thanks, Osayi, for just sharing your journey with us. It's nice to see you again. The question I've got here is, what is that one skill that you use? Because again, you've gone so far, but I also know you didn't get that far just by yourself. There were people that came in, supported. But what is that one skill that you think, this is what got me here? Apart from the technical aspect or the business acumen, what is that one skill you think actually helped you significantly get into where you are today in terms of business?
Thank you. I think I'll answer your question, but I think I'll tell you one very important thing that enabled my progress. I'll say my life partner was very, very instrumental to the man I've become and the things I've been able to accomplish. Um, there's a saying where I come from, and I'm going to say it in Benin because I suspect there are some Benin people here. They say, Owe Magbonwa and Owe setting. What that means is that if your home doesn't kill you, the outside can take you out. So really having a partner who looks after you, I think is very important, particularly as an entrepreneur, because there are going to be tough days, and you need someone who truly understands you to sweat it out with you as you move along. I think the one key skill, and I know this may sound funny, but the one key skill that I would encourage, particularly young entrepreneurs, to sharpen is their communication skills, right? Because think about it, you are constantly communicating. You're gonna be trying to recruit people who, at the time, think your ideas are crazy, think you don't know what you're doing, think you're too young to recruit them. If you cannot sell your vision, if you cannot communicate effectively, verbally and orally, it's going to be tough. In the early days, you're going to be your own salesman, right? You read the story of how the young Steve Jobs recruited the CEO of Pepsi, right? This was a Steve Jobs, a startup founder going to, it's like you trying to start up a company in your garage and going over to think of maybe HP or one of these big, their CEO. And you know what Steve Jobs told him? Say, look, do you want to keep putting out sugar, colored sugar water and killing people for the rest of your life? Or you want to come do something remarkable? The guy said, seeing this young 20-something-year-old tell him that convinced him that this guy is going somewhere. Do you understand? So communication skills is very, very important. You're going to be talking to investors, right? They're going to want to hear your ideas. Nobody's going to open up your brain and see that, oh, Kelly's got it. He's building the next best thing. No, you've got to be able to sell your ideas, communicate, written, orally. So I think that's one key skill that I continue to sharpen every day to be a very, very, very good communicator because you will need it. I mean, I go in this meeting I just came back from. I go in to see the governor, and it was supposed to be a private meeting with him. I go in there, and then he brings his entire cabinet, like his entire cabinet. Two of them are professors. One is a professor of electrical engineering. Tells me how he schooled in London, schooled in America. They put me up almost like a panel to come sell my idea why I think the state should spend millions of dollars on my solution. I wasn't prepared for that. I thought I was going to have a private conversation, pitch to this guy and talk to him. But he brought in everybody, rightly so, because if he believes in it, he needs his team to buy into it. Now I had to sell that idea. And at the end of the day, they bought into it. So you need to sharpen your communications because I think the next one that moves closely with that is strategic thinking, being able to think long term, delayed gratification. I don't think that's something that's not very common with young people today, right? They make a little money, they want to get a nice car, get a nice house, buy nice clothes, live in this, live in that. If you really want to be successful, you've got to really understand how to be strategic, think long term, think partnerships, think delayed gratification. But communication skills would be my number one recommendation to sharpen.
Sweet. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much. So are there any more questions for Osayi before we kind of summarize and bring this to a close? Does anybody else have any questions? Thank you so much. I see some familiar names. I haven't met them in person, but I really appreciate the fact that you take time off your busy schedule to come here and get educated.
Can we have his wife say hello? Can we have his wife say hello?
She says that she's doing mommy duty. So I texted her because I wanted her to play. Yes, I wanted her to play the video of Imose. And she said she can't talk, that she's doing mommy duties. I definitely wanted her to show her video because Osayi has really talked about her. But something very interesting that I have Osayi here on International Day of the Girl Child, that is October 11th, our speaker said she couldn't make it, and at the shortest notice, I reached out to my cousin Taye that cannot talk for some reason, Taye, but anyway, and she went out to speak to the secondary school that we were doing a STEM outreach. So when Osayi talks about passion and starting with why, it's a passion that is not shared with all. It's a passion that is shared with his wife. Then and he talks about support and how much his wife has enabled his success. That statement cannot be overemphasized. That who you allow into your life is vitally important if you have a big vision, because there are people that are destiny helpers and there are people that are destiny destroyers. So when he talks about the support network, talking about three things: the support network, having the right motivation, having the right mindset to be an entrepreneur. These things cannot be overemphasized. So if nobody is asking any more questions, and next time we'll be able to start up the Imose video, I just want to thank everybody. Osayi has talked about curiosity. He has talked about being curious about the world that you live in. And not just curious by looking at just the problems, but he used the word, which I'm going to start using going forward. He called it, what did he call it? Borrowed brilliance. Curious about people, the brilliance in people, because some people sabotage themselves because they want to be the only star. But Osayi has talked about the fact that you learn from people and you borrow their brilliance and you bring them into your team in order to achieve big results. He talked about the pursuit of excellence. He did not talk about the pursuit of perfection. Perfection, that pursuit of perfection sabotages you. Pursuit of excellence is like he gave examples of iPhone. You are always doing something better than you did the previous day. And he talked about ethics, really, character ethics, being a person of integrity, being a person who has a big vision, being a person who is confident, who has social and emotional intelligence, and who is a hard worker. And really, when you're talking about social and emotional intelligence, you're talking about somebody who listens. So Osayi has dropped so many nuggets today, and we can only thank him for the time that he has spent. Our WITI Africa community is a community that is focused on bringing transformation in your life. We do not want you to just hear, we want you to do. We want you to take action based on what you have heard. We want you to look at the community where you are in. And like Osayi, ask yourself, what impact can I make in that community? Osayi has talked about coming from the corporate world into the world of entrepreneurship, and he kept on hammering, start with why, have a passion. And the passion is have a passion to give back to the community that you live in. So I want that to be a message that each one of us takes away today. What contribution, what value can I create in the community that I'm a part of? We're looking forward to seeing you next month. Next month is just, there will be no speaker. It's just an opportunity for all our speakers from the beginning of the year. We're going to invite them back. It will be an opportunity to go into breakout rooms, get to know each other. So we'll be sending out the invitation. Keep your eyes open for invitation. It's going to be Christmas. So it's going to be time to meet and greet and to just share the learnings we've had all year long. Thank you so much. I see Skill Dev has raised their hand, but we've kept Osayi 10 more minutes.
No, it's fine. I was just going to tell you that
okay.
I can probably share the video if
Okay,
you want.
please. Yes, I do.
Okay.
Let me, yes.
Started this business from, our own funds, bootstrapped it for several years until we became a multi-billion-naira business. Found in the bank of industry a very reliable partner. Today, we're employing over 200 Nigerians, 48% of which are women. We are now the largest indigenous manufacturer of educational tablets and laptops. We've developed our distribution network where over 350 distributors across the length and breadth of Nigeria. And one of our key verticals today is Teesas Education. We've gone ahead to even build an education company. Today we've developed, an app, the Teesas Education app that prepares children for WITI and JAM. We've gone back 40 years, looked at all the past questions, come up with the frequently asked questions, videos. We had to build our own studio in-house, brought in the best and the brightest tutors. We have those videos on the app, now also infused on our tablets, so that when we put out our tablets and laptops, we give a complete solution.
Since we are involved in a lot of CSR and other things, anywhere we are helping schools with laptops and whatever, anything that is produced by this company, kindly permit us to use their products, as this is really ours.
I want to commend you on your enterprise for a number of very significant achievements that you've made. As you rightly mentioned, the Bank of Industry has recently focused on very 6 thematic areas that are critical for Nigeria's development. I want to assure you that BOI is committed to standing side by side with you to ensure that the whole value chain which you are engaged in develops further, because we believe that it is by developing the value chain that we can also contribute effectively to your own growth and also job creation in this country. We hope that we will continue to work together very closely. We will support you. We will stand by your side. You will stand on our own shoulders to continue to do what you do best. And so, thank you.
Wow.
Right.
I need to actually, that is a more than just the law. Oh, thank you so much. I didn't even know you could do that when I was still trying to figure that out.
The Bank of Industry is one of the largest development finance banks in Africa. And they've partnered with us with really finance some of our expansion projects. And so that was the MD came to our office to visit us just recently. So that's one of the recent videos I could pick. But I'm sure you saw some snippets of Teesas and Imose. You saw one of the Imose factories. We have 2 of those factories now, one in Lagos and one in Benin. So yeah, that'll probably give you an idea of what we do. The building you saw initially, that's our HQ. We just built it from scratch. It's quite a big building. We call it our campus, where it has everything. We even have apartments for our engineers. When they work late, they can sleep over. We have a gym, everything. So it's like a tech campus that we built out here, right here, just around Lekki Phase 1.
Osayi, can I make a request, because we still have some people here? I know Tai said she can't show her face, but she sent me a video. I just couldn't download it. Do you have that video of us speaking about Imose? Can you just show it? It's very short.
I'm not sure I have it.
You don't have it. Okay, no worries. I was trying to share it, but just to show our own involvement and contribution, being a female, and we are female engineers, so it would be good to see her contribution to the whole tech ecosystem that Imose is building. So we're going to bring this to a close. Thank you so much. This is being streamed, so you can have access to the video if you want to go back to it, and we can send you the link. Thank you, everybody, and stay tuned for our December event, which will just be meet and greet and really connecting with all the speakers. We've had 12 speakers we've had 11 speakers this year. And so in December, all the speakers will be here. Hopefully those who can make it, and it will be an opportunity for you to engage with them and really ask them about the amazing work that they are doing in their communities of influence. Each speaker is an outlier, like Osayi. Thank you and have a great day. Thank you so much, Osayi. We really appreciate your time. Bye,
Thank you so much.
everybody.
Very,
Bye,
very
everyone.
inspiring. Bye, everyone. See you next time.
See you. Bye.